Welcome to our first Millennial Spotlight brought to you by Lead with Intention. I'm Leslie Bosserman, Executive Coach and Lifestyle Strategist, partnering with millennial leaders and their managers. So each month, we're going to feature a Millennial Changemaker who's doing amazing things to showcase what's really possible when you lead with intention. This month, we're focusing on the intention of giving in all of its various forms. So the big idea is to really look for these opportunities to do good, to give back, no matter where you work, who you are, or where you are in your career path. So today I'm really excited to talk with Camille Ricketts. She's the pioneer behind the First Round Review based out of San Francisco. So welcome, Camille. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
It's great to just kick this off with you, and I'm so excited to hear your perspective. So tell us a little bit more about kind of where you've come from, some highlights of your career path in the last decade, and anything that really stands out for you.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I think that I am a very good person, I dare say, to kick off a series about millennials and sort of finding out what your purpose is and what your path should be, because mine has been especially circuitous. So just to give a brief overview, I started my career as a journalist for the Wall Street Journal in New York and London, came back here, did public relations for a while for electric car company Tesla Motors, saw what the other side of the coin was there, working with journalists instead of being one, and then spent a couple years also at Kiva Microfunds, helping people all over the developing world get access to capital that they need to build businesses. And then, sort of as an evolution of that step, I went to go work for a venture capital firm that invests in very early stage technology companies. And for them, I actually don't do investing, but I write a publication called the First Round Review, which is dedicated to interviewing extremely talented experts across technology and helping them relay the lessons that they've learned and how they've gotten to where they are to an audience of younger entrepreneurs that are building great things today.
Wow. So, with all of those different stepping stones, you've had numerous opportunities to both learn a lot and give back. So, with this idea of giving in mind, share a little bit more about your perspective about how millennials are really uniquely suited to give, whether that's being socially minded or giving financially. Just kind of build that out for us a little more.
Sure. One thing that I've heard again and again that is really heartening for me actually is that millennials are extremely motivated to find purpose-filled careers, that they're not necessarily motivated by money or location or title even, but really feeling like they're going to work every day doing something that's going to make an impact that they care about. So
Yes.
I'm actually really inspired by that.
And that's something that's very consistent with the research that I've done, but also the interviews that I've done through a Millennial Leadership Project. Time and time again, these incredible change makers, these millennials from all around the world are sharing how they really just want to feel like they're doing good in the world, and they're kind of elevating this consciousness around what can be paid forward through this spirit of giving. So that's really where this theme came in and played into it. So I know there's some struggles or some stumbling blocks that we face. So when you look at your life and also your peers and your friends and colleagues who might have kind of had a step back as they've stepped forward, what are you noticing are some of the struggles that millennials face with giving, but also with just their own career development?
Yeah, I think that a lot of millennials today, especially those who have gone to a good college, who are really trying to carve out a career that is ambitious but also fills their need to have an impact. There's a real commitment to perfection, and I think that that comes at the exclusion of feeling okay about failure. And
Mm.
I know that that has become sort of a cliche thing to say these days, that it's, good to fail fast. But it really cannot be stressed enough. And this is something that I've also grappled with and only recently accepted in my own career. But failure really does maximize your learning and is a signal that you are trying enough things to really find that one thing that lights you up and where you have the most to contribute. So I think that the biggest struggle I've seen is people who are so unwilling to fail that they end up in careers that they don't find fulfilling, or where they aren't following sort of an innate sense of what they should be doing.
And I'm seeing more and more millennials come to that earlier. So instead of waiting until, I guess, a traditional career path might be 40 or 50 when you hit that point, I see a lot of people, even at 25, 30, and that really is the typical millennial nowadays, but they're realizing there must be something more. And I love how you highlight failure, because I think failure is one of the best ways we can give, because we give to something without a fear of risking like this perfection, and just saying it's okay if we have to take a step back. It's okay if we're learning from this. So we're giving ourselves to that failure in a way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think giving yourself to the failure is the way that you will think through what could be better the next time. So instead of covering it up really quickly or trying not to think about it, really leaning in and thinking about the mechanics of what happened and what could be done differently.
Yeah.
Super important.
And I know when I have failed, like flat on my face, one of the best things that has come of it are other people coming up to me and asking, wow, how did that feel? Like, what was that like? Because they witnessed this. It's not like in private, you know. When you
Mm-hmm.
fail, generally
Yeah.
it's pretty public. And it gave them permission to be okay with even entertaining failure. So it's kind of paying it forward too, and giving the permission, I think is huge.
Absolutely. I think that if you are in a position where you have any degree of influence, or you're very experienced in your career field, I think one of the most generous things that you can do is talk freely and openly about the times that you've failed. So whenever I'm invited to speak anywhere or to talk to a group of people who are younger in their careers, I always try to highlight the times that were really hard for me, where I didn't meet my own expectations, because I think that having that relatable experience out there really does make people feel like they can speak openly and honestly about what they're dealing with in their own lives.
Yes, I'm hearing you also say this sense of giving space and giving a sense of kind of allowing that
Mhm.
to be enough and to be okay. And I think in a culture where millennials are typically stereotyped as these kind of overachievers who work 80 to 100 hours a week, which some of us do, and for good reason. But at the same time, we have to learn how to kind of scale back so everything doesn't kind of blow up in our face, to say. So when you think about this idea of giving again, are there other ways you're seeing millennials give that are either unique or maybe typical of our generation compared to other generations?
I think that the generation right now of people who are somewhat younger in their careers, what's interesting to me is how many of them have side projects or side hustle, as some
Mm-hmm.
people have started calling it.
Side hustle, I love it.
Yeah, I love this concept. And so many people are now writing about what it is that they're doing on the side. Maybe writing on the side is the thing they're doing, but not relying on finding complete and total fulfillment in their everyday day jobs. People have instead of just saying, oh, well, that's my life and that's my job, they've really dedicated some time to thinking through what else they want to do. How can they develop their interest or their passion in other ways? And I have so many friends and see so many people who are doing probably their best work outside of their actual jobs. And that's inspiring to me.
That's incredible. I love this concept of side hustle, and also the idea that one thing, whether it's a career or a relationship or a stage of life, doesn't have to be the end all be all. You are a multifaceted person. And that's where when I think about like lifestyle strategy and what I do with coaching clients, really getting them to get creative and not have it be all or nothing, but maybe they do 10 hours a week of something that's inspiring and motivating. And a lot of people in the past I've noticed do that through like volunteer organizations or something that's more structured. But what I'm hearing you say is almost, instead of going out and launching a startup and having that be your full-time gig, doing something that is fulfilling and creatively inspired that maybe you even design on your own.
Yeah, I have friends who, they are the leaders of organizations devoted to women in entrepreneurship. There are a couple of friends that I have that are on the side running something about solar advocacy. A few others really are just dedicated to baking delicious things and making people happy through that. I think that finding that one thing that is really flow for you, no matter what it is. Maybe it's just reading or writing something that you never even show anyone. It really does nourish the soul in ways that will vitalize other parts of your life as well.
Yeah, that really speaks to me. My word of the year, I always go through this exercise at the beginning of the year, and I chose flow this year because it's one of those concepts that when you're truly giving of yourself and your talent and your energy and your resources, you can dive deeper in that. So I think finding that and accessing that is huge when it comes to being able to give more.
Yeah, I think that that's so true. And also, I loved something you said earlier that's related, that you don't have to be redlining it all the time. You don't have to be constantly building, 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 pushing yourself to the limits. One of the things that I love most about my current job is my manager. And I could talk all day long about how important it is to have a manager that believes in you and sort of nurtures your development. But I love this idea that he keeps coming back to, that while our work is urgent and important, there is no reason that we need to be doing anything at any given time necessarily. So that we have to give ourselves room to not just breathe and live our lives, but to be thoughtful about what the next move should be. And I think that that's one of the most masterful things about his leadership, is knowing when to say that and the space to give people, and being extremely deliberate about that.
That is huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's the foundation of what I live on and believe. So when someone asked me once, they said, Leslie, why didn't you name your practice Leslie Bosserman Coaching, or fill in the blank? A lot of people name their practice after themselves because it's recognizable and good. I said, because I believe in this concept of really leading with intention, where you start with that purposeful, deliberate focus, your intention, but then you put legs under it and you do something with it, whether that's giving back or creating something or resting, whatever that intention is. It's figuring out, how do you do that in a way that really is authentic and unique and contributes something beyond yourself?
Right.
And
I think it's beautiful.
that's the power of this work we are all engaged in. So you mentioned your manager and this really amazing mentorship and leadership that he's provided. So one of the big things I notice with millennials today is really craving genuine mentorship, yet wanting to be autonomous and do it on their own. So there's this kind of tug of war between these two sides. And I really view mentorship as a way to give back and to pour into someone without micromanaging them. So there's that kind of balance there. So when you think of the ways that individuals have invested in you throughout your life, were there any specific examples or kind of turning points or aha moments that really made a difference for you?
Oh, wow. There's a few, definitely. Um, I would say that one of the biggest aha moments was during my time at First Round, and my manager definitely had a lot to do with this, realizing that it was what I wanted to be doing. So just a little bit of background there. I was working at Kiva, feeling extremely good about what I was doing to give back to the world, really liked my work, and then this opportunity to work at First Round Capital came along, and immediately it seemed to chafe against my opinion of myself and what I should be doing, because I thought I should be working in nonprofit. I should be doing something that very overtly gave back. And going to work at a venture capital firm did not seem to dovetail with that. But about a year into the job, I had an entrepreneur come up to me and say that they had read an article that we had written, and it was a pretty wonky article about how to roadmap a product. And it was an interview with the head of product at Pandora Radio. And he said that he actually restructured their entire product organization based on that article, and was a 200-person company. And I realized that the work that I was doing not only was impacting the people who directly read my content, but also the people who worked for them and the people who benefited from the products being built by these people. And it was a real turning point where I had to reconsider what was important to me and what kind of job fit my perception of myself and who my tribe really was. And it was just a magical moment where I realized it was so important to be open to changing my mind about a lot of things.
So what is so powerful about that? So many things, but the thing that stands out for me is sometimes mentorship or feedback comes from unexpected places. Sometimes it's not that kind of top-down manager to employee. Sometimes it's a consumer, a listener, a reader, a client, whatever that relationship is, you have influence. And when I think about the true nature of giving, it's how do you spread that influence to make an impact that's lasting?
Mm-hmm. I think that that is a really great question and one that I wish more people would ponder. But to really understand that the actions you take as an individual, even if you feel like the work you do on a daily basis does not impact thousands or millions of people, realizing that just taking a coffee meeting with somebody or saying the right thing at the right time for someone in a meeting or just being present with someone as they are speaking to you can make a really revolutionary difference down the line in that person's life, in the work that they do after that interaction, uh, other people that they end up touching as a result. So really understanding that it's possible to make a difference in even the smallest moments.
I love that. And sometimes you'll never even know. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the dirty little secret behind all of this. Sometimes you will just go through your life and you'll do something that you naturally do based on your character, and it will change someone's path forever, and you'll never know. But that's true leadership in my mind. And when you are really leading with that intention of giving, you're able to do that in every moment. And that feels like there's a huge weight to it. It's like give in every moment. But it's more about being your true self and living by your values. And when you do that, you don't even have to think about it. You just live.
Yeah, I think that that's a really great point that character, having character and making sure that you're living true to it all of the time really does have this byproduct of making waves in the world. And you want to make the waves that are true to you. And the only way to do that is to really live like that all of the time.
Yeah, and be able to take a break and a rest, not necessarily getting out of your character, out of your values, but
Sure.
knowing it's okay to like tune it down, turn it off, disconnect, pick your metaphor. I think that's goes back to the idea of overcoming perfectionism. I was joking with a friend here in Sacramento the other day that I think I'm going to start a support group called Perfectionist Anonymous
Mhm.
because there's such a need in our generation for letting millennials know that it's okay to both give back and to rest. There's this beautiful balance in how to like take the foot off the gas pedal and really slow down. So when you think about any advice or insights that you have as we wrap up today, what do you want to share with kind of those emerging millennial leaders who might need some encouragement?
Yeah, well, I think that your Perfectionist Anonymous idea is brilliant. We talked a little bit about that before, but I think
Yeah.
it's so needed right now. And one thing that I would say to sort of follow up on my last response, I think taking a break is critical, but also being aware of doing your best. I'm a big subscriber to this philosophy called the Four Agreements. And the big one that I love is that doing your best is relative. So your best is going to be different if you're sick. It's going to be different if you're tired. It's going to be different if something sad just happened to you in your life. It's going to be different if you got great sleep. So being really aware of what your best is and then giving yourself a break if you are trying your best, but it might not necessarily be the best ever. I think that that's extremely important. And then as words of encouragement, I would just say be patient and let things unfold. I think that there's a high degree of impatience among young people in their careers right now, and I certainly fall prey to that where I want a better title, I want to make more money, I think that maybe I should be doing something else. This is the longest I've ever actually had one role. I have been known to hop around and have a lot of adventures, and so I always feel a little bit antsy. But then I'm reminded that if things are good and that you're learning and you're feeling challenged and you feel like there's pathways for growth, that you should sit back, plant the seed, and watch it grow.
Mm,
And I think beautiful things can happen when you give them time.
that is so profound and so needed. We need to hear this more often, and the ability to both plant and then reap and then wait and then enjoy the harvest. Like all of that comes full circle.
I think that very few people like waiting these days, but there is a beauty and a stillness and just great hope and potential that comes with sitting, being quiet, and waiting for the work that you've done to really pay off in some greater way.
And to tie that in with this intention of giving, when we create the space to wait, we create the space for others to give and to pour into us. We don't always have to be the ones that are hustling and pushing and serving in a good way, but sometimes we have to create the space for other people to give.
I think that that's so true. One woman that I spoken to recently for an article named Ellen Chisa, she's a product manager who helped build Kickstarter and is now running a section of a new company. She has this rule that she only wants to be using 80% of her capacity at any given time because that provides the room for magical things to happen to her. So she gave an example of only being at 80% capacity, and then a woman who she admired extremely randomly invited her to a dinner in a different city, and she was able to go because she wasn't stretched to her limits. And it ended up being this really incredible experience that accelerated her career.
Wow.
So yeah, giving yourself the space to have really interesting things happen to you, so important.
Yeah, and that just really sums up the idea that the giving is an interaction. It's not necessarily a transaction, it's hopefully more transformational, but it requires both the intention to give and the space to receive. So I think the qualities that you brought out today really showcase how that's a trait that millennials thrive in, and also an area that we can grow in. So I really appreciate you being with us today and sharing so much of your insight, Camille. It was just awesome to hear your perspective and hear all the different ways you've been able to give throughout your career and throughout your life. And I just encourage all of our listeners to read the first round review. There's some amazing content. And I also want you to check out leadwithintention.com. There's some more perspectives from other millennial changemakers coming up. And I'm launching some great programs and offering some services to really support both emerging leaders and established leaders in their teams. So again, this is Leslie Bosserman. I'm inviting you to join this wholehearted leadership revolution as you continue to lead with intention.